Seabird populations are in decline in Aotearoa, New Zealand, which is a hotspot for global seabird diversity. For master's student Sarah Rewi of Ngāpuhi, Ngāti Hine, a mix of Western science and Mtauranga Māori is helping to inform her thesis into the Tītī, the muttonbird, and the Oi, the grey-faced petrel. Sarah Rewi of the School of Biological Science at Mtauranga, the University of Auckland, joins us now. Sarah, e mihi ana ki a koe. Can you explain for us how you're using Mtauranga Māori and Western science in your thesis into seabirds in the petrel family?
Oh, tēnā koe ai. The key part of combining Mātauranga Māori and Western science is combining people. So while I was working alongside my colleagues at the University of Auckland's Waipapa Matauranga, we also had great engagement from Te Kawerau Maki at the beginning of the project and right through.
And why is this cross-cultural approach critical?
I think it's critical because our Mtauranga holds a lot of knowledge about our taonga species that Western science is still starting to learn. And of course, tied into our Mtauranga is our tikanga and our hitori and all of our whakapapa that we have with these manu. So it's important that those things aren't lost in the management of the birds.
Oh, boy. So the fledgling chicks of birds in the petrel family have been harvested for kai by Māori for hundreds of years. How have these customary practices helped preserve the continuation of the colonies?
Well, the colonies actually, when the populations are doing well, are very dense and it's very stressful for the birds. There's lots of well-known kōrero about our manu abandoning their chicks when these pressures get too high. So our muttonbird harvests, while they're very beneficial to our Māori communities, actually help the manu populations stay healthy and strong by removing too much overpopulated colonies.
So why are these birds in decline?
Oh, there's lots of theories about why they're in decline, but the most common pressures that they experience are lack of habitat, as our coastal regions are being deforested, and we have a lot of rats and rodents moving into the burrows and eating the eggs. Also, with the pollution of our coastal moana is threatening the food sources for these birds, so they're having to go further and further out to sea to find enough kai to raise their chicks.
So how are the birds being affected by a polluted environment?
Well, that was where the core of the study started, is a lot of our fisheries are monitored for plastics and metals, because these are the pollutants in our oceans at the moment. And our fisheries are common food sources for all of Aotearoa. But only our Māori communities are maintaining muttonbird as a core food source. So we wanted to ask the question, what are the metals and pollutants in these birds? And are the birds still healthy and are they still safe to eat? Well, the study is still ongoing, but preliminary results show that the birds are still doing well, they're managing, but those metals are getting more and more toxic to the birds. So it's definitely something we're going to want to monitor into the future, not only for the health of the birds, but also for our people too who are eating this food source.
Sure. So can you give us an example of what kind of Mtauranga Māori, iwi like Te Kawerau Maki and others that you've been working with have shared with you in terms of the Tītī and the Oi?
Well, the Mtauranga Māori is actually, from my perspective, very, very straightforward. It's around how we interact with the birds, the tikanga around harvesting, because within that is actually a lot of information around their migration routes, you know, when they're eating, when they're coming to Aotearoa, when they're rearing their chicks. And all of this is incorporated into harvesting practices. And with the iwi that I have been speaking to, there are differences between our harvesting practices throughout the motu. So it's important to pay attention to the mātauranga within those practices, because they're actually telling you the behaviours of the birds in the different regions and how we can best accommodate those manu.
Which regions have you been working with? Which iwi apart from those here in Auckland?
Well, the study sites that I worked with was mainly at Te Hinga, Bethel's Beach in Auckland, but we did receive some samples from Ngāti Awa region, from Mtauranga Islands. We've also been in contact with the researchers working on our Tītī down in Rakiura and talking with Ngāti Wai as well.
Awesome. Well, it's great stuff. And obviously that is why this research is very important. All the best with the study, Sarah Rewi. Thank you very much for speaking to us today. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.